Hello, this is Travis Duncan, and this is the MEC140 Intro to Robotics Robot Project Number 1 video report. And our project is the MazeBot, and this is our first objective. In this first objective, we begin with the initial planning and designing and construction and assembly of our SquareBot, which is our robot that's going to trek the course of our maze. I've included right here a bill of materials of all the components used in the assembly of the SquareBot. And right here we have the base of the SquareBot. The initial design has two VEX motors turning a large gear, or two large gears that are in turn turning four smaller gears, which will turn our wheels on the outside of the SquareBot. I initially assembled it with the big gears turning the small gears, but then I realized once I got on the maze that the robot didn't have enough torque to turn or get over the hump in the maze. So I corrected the issue by switching out the big gear for the small gears, and basically it gave the robot torque enough to turn it at a 90-degree angle. And here's the robot fully assembled with the VEX battery attached to the top, and you can see the Arduino in the case underneath. And right here you can take a look at the programming code for the SquareBot in the Arduino IDE sketch. I've included a servo library and declared that DC motor 1 is a servo, as well as DC motor 2. In the void setup, I've attached DC motor 1 to digital pin 10 on the Arduino, and DC motor 2 I've attached to pin 11 on the digital side of the Arduino. In the void loop, I initially wrote a command telling the robot to go forward, which is DC motor 1 and 2, right 125. And then I'm giving the robot a stop command, DC motor right 90. 90 in the servo library is a stop. And then I'm telling the robot to turn clockwise, DC motor 80 for one side and DC motor right 117 for the other. And then I'm telling the DC motor to both DC motors to stop, stopping the robot. And then I'm telling it to move forward again, and then stop. And then I'm telling the SquareBot to turn counterclockwise. This time DC motor right 117, DC motor 2 right 60, and then I'm telling it to stop again. And then I'm telling the robot to go forward again, and then stopping again. And then I've added another clockwise turn command, and then another stop command, and then another forward command, and then another stop command. And I've included a while loop at the end saying while true, curly bracket, basically stopping the motor completely, ending the void loop once it gets to that last stop command. And here's the robot in action. Once I've turned the Arduino on, there it is, goes forward, stops, turns counterclockwise, then stops, turns clockwise, goes forward again over the hump, and then stops, turns clockwise again, goes forward, and then stops completely, completing the maze. In objective number 2, we're going through the course again, but this time we've included a VEX push button as well as a VEX LCD, so we know where we are in the programming code when the robot is running. This time in the IDE sketch, I've included the VEX LCD library. Again, I've added the servo library, and here I've declared each DC motor as a servo again, and I've declared the push button as well. In the void setup, the DC motors are still attached to digital pins 10 and 11. And you can see I have the LCD initialize command, and then the LCD clear command, and then the LCD display next LCD string is robot start. So you'll see on the LCD screen, as soon as I turn on the Arduino, it should read robot start. I've declared that the digital pin is, or the digital push button is in digital pin 2. We'll begin the void loop with push button value is equal to digital read 2, so we can read the value of the push button, which is normally high. Um, so once I turn on the Arduino, I've added the while loop. So once I turn on the Arduino, it will automatically read that the push button is high, making the robot start and go forward. I've included in the while loop a LCD display next LCD string written robot go now. So once the robot begins moving forward, the LCD should read robot go. I've also included another digital read of pin 2, so once it reads that the push button is no longer high, we exit the while loop, and then into the next command, which stops. I've also included the command saying robot stop once it is stopped, and then I've added a reverse command, and the LCD will show a reverse, and then robot stop again, and then I want the robot to turn counterclockwise, counterclockwise, and I've included on the LCD to display robot CCW or counterclockwise, stopping the robot once more. But then I've added another digital read of 2. The button should be high again at this point, turning the motor back on, moving it forward again. Every time I want the robot to move forward, I have to include another while command, or a while loop. In a while loop, I have to include another digital read of pin 2, otherwise the while loop won't know whether or not the button is high or low. And further along in the programming, I'm telling it to stop, the robot to stop again once it hits the push button, reverse, and then turn clockwise this time. And then once it turns clockwise, I've again included another while loop. The button should be high again, making the robot go forward. And then once it reads that the button has been pressed, I'm stopping the robot once more. I'm reversing it, and then I'm turning it clockwise once more. And then I've included the last while loop, making the robot go forward, exiting the maze. I also added one more while true statement, stopping the motor once the robot reaches the end of the maze. And here's the robot in action again, this time with the LCD and the push button. As soon as I turn it on, you can see on the LCD it says robot start, and then robot go as soon as the motors start turning. There it is, hits the push button, reverses, and then turns counterclockwise. Goes forward again, presses the push button, stops, reverses, turns clockwise. Then goes forward until the push button is pressed again, stopping it, reversing it, and then turning it clockwise once more. And then it exits the maze. And just to show you the repeatability of it, here it is again. And I'll show you LCD a little bit better. Robot stop, robot reverse. And just to show you that I could repeat the maze, it wasn't just a one-time deal, that the robot can do the maze over and over again. And then reverses, turns clockwise, and then exits the maze. And that concludes the Intro to Robotics project number 1. Thank you again for watching.